Michael Jackson was only 9 years old when he saw his father Joe's belt in a backstage hallway, and for the first time he thought, what happens if I mess up on stage? That same night, just before he went out under the lights, a little girl stopped him and whispered a single line that stayed with him like a secret. Because after that line, Michael didn't sing to impress anyone. He stepped on stage to keep himself standing. It was the late 1960s. The Jackson 5 were a small touring group, racing from town to town, chasing big dreams in modest venues. Everything was rushed, rehearsals were quick, travel was long, dressing rooms were cramped and hot. Some places didn't even have proper backstage rooms, just a curtain, a storage corner, wherever they could change clothes and breathe for a second. That day was one of those days. An old hall, yellow hallway lights, damp walls that smelled like humidity and old paint. Backstage, cables lay on the floor, road cases stacked like blocks. One bulb kept flickering as if it couldn't sit still. The crew ran back and forth. Someone kept shouting, 10 minutes! 5 minutes! Michael stood in front of a mirror. He tried to smooth the jacket that was too big for him, rubbing it down with the backs of his hands. He lifted the collar, lowered it again, pushed his hair back, bit his lip. What he saw in the mirror didn't look like a star. In the mirror was a frightened kid. Because during rehearsal earlier, he'd stumbled. He'd been late on a step. Joe's look had changed instantly. When Joe gave that look, Michael stopped thinking about music and started thinking about consequences. Jermaine peeked through the doorway. "Mike, you ready?" he asked, and Michael tried to smile. "I'm ready," he said, but his voice came out thin. Jermaine stepped inside and looked at his face. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, quieter this time. Michael was about to say, "I'm fine," but his throat tightened. Jermaine touched his shoulder. "Look," he said, "if there was a mistake, it happens. We all do it." Michael wanted to say, "My dad," but he didn't. Jermaine didn't finish the sentence either. He just nodded like, "I know." From the hall, Tito called out, "Guys, line up, Joe's coming." Michael's chest tightened even more. A little before the show, Joe gathered the boys in a small room. There was an old record player, a chair, a guitar leaned against the wall. The floor smelled like wood and dust. Joe clapped his hands twice. "All right," he said, "one more time." Jackie looked like he wanted to ask, "Now?" Joe didn't blink. "Now," he said. Tito grabbed the guitar. Jermaine held the rhythm. Marlon counted steps. Michael stood in the center, suddenly feeling a heavy weight on his shoulders because Joe's eyes were on him. "Don't get too close to the mic," Joe said. "I can hear your breath. Pull back there." Michael nodded. "Yes, sir." Joe took a step forward and pointed. "You turn there, but you're turning late, 2 beats earlier." Michael said, "Okay," and tried again. "Stop," Joe cut in. That one word echoed in the room. Michael's stomach dropped. Joe moved in close. His voice was low but sharp. "Listen," he said. "When you go out there, nobody knows you. Nobody feels sorry for you. I don't want mistakes." Michael parted his lips. "I'm trying, Dad." Joe's eyebrow rose. "Trying?" he said. "Out there, there's no trying. You do it or you don't." Michael lowered his gaze. "I'll do it." Joe stared at him for 2 seconds, then stepped back. "Good," he said. "Again." They ran it again. This time, Michael hit the step on the beat. He held his voice tight. Joe didn't say anything. But even Joe's silence was a message. "That's right. Keep going." When it ended, Jermaine leaned in and whispered, "You've got this. Just breathe, okay?" Michael said, "Okay," but his eyes drifted toward the hallway again, like he was searching for something he didn't want to find. Because in that hallway, on a chair, there was a belt. When Michael stepped back out into the corridor, he saw Joe again. Joe had left his jacket on a chair, and beside the jacket was that thin, dark shape, the belt. Michael's throat closed completely. His breathing shrank. It felt like someone had set a stone in the middle of his chest. In their house, that belt meant discipline. On tour, it meant don't mess up. Michael stared without blinking. Then he moved away from the mirror and pressed himself into a corner. So quietly no one could hear, without even moving his lips much, he murmured like a prayer that barely became sound. "Please, don't let me mess up tonight." That's when a shadow appeared beside him. Michael turned his head. A little girl, 9, maybe 10. She wore an old dress. Her hair was tied into 2 small bunches. A badge hung around her neck, too big for her, heavy against her chest. She looked at Michael, and her eyes widened, not like a fan, like she was scared too. Michael stepped back. He wanted to say, "Are you lost?" But nothing came out. She didn't step closer. She just held out a small piece of paper. It was wrinkled. There were quick little drawings in pen, a stage, a few lights, a microphone, and underneath, one sentence: "If you get too scared, close your eyes and think of me. I won't forget to clap." Michael looked at the paper, then at her. "This for me?" he whispered. She nodded. "I'm here," she said. "My mom cleans here. They let me in. You look sad." Michael straightened up fast, like he'd been caught. "I'm not sad," he said quickly. She didn't smile. She just said something simple. "You're not sad. You're scared." Michael's eyes filled instantly. He wiped them fast. Crying felt forbidden. Crying felt like weakness, especially back here. "I'm not scared," Michael said, but his voice betrayed him. The girl kept her hand out for a second, steady. "I'm scared," she said, "but I'm still here." Michael blinked. "Why are you scared?" he asked. She shrugged. "I get scared when grown-ups yell," she said, "and when everybody looks." Michael's eyes flicked, without meaning to, toward the chair and the belt. The girl noticed. "Your dad?" she asked. Michael said nothing. She lowered her head a little, like, "Okay." "I watched you," she said. "When you sing, people smile. But right now, you look small." Michael's face warmed. "I am small," he muttered. She gave the tiniest smile. "Me too," she said, "but you get bigger on stage." Michael took the paper. His fingers were trembling. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, like she didn't want to say it. Then she whispered, "Rosie." Michael slipped the paper into his pocket. "Thank you," he said. Rosie shook her head quickly. "I have to go," she said. "If my mom sees me, she'll get mad." As she turned away, Michael blurted, "Wait, don't tell her, please." Rosie paused. "I won't," she said, "but you shouldn't yell at yourself either." Michael frowned. "What do you mean?" Rosie made a quick face, imitating someone scolding, scrunching her expression like a grown-up. "You're yelling at you," she said. "Your face does that." Michael was about to respond when a crew member shouted down the hall, 2 minutes! 2 minutes to stage!" Rosie flinched. "I have to go," she said, and disappeared into the moving crowd. Michael looked at the belt again, then at the paper in his pocket. Both were there at the same time. One was fear. One was a small, stubborn line telling him to hold on. When Joe came into the corridor, the atmosphere changed instantly. "Stand straight," he said. "Eyes on the stage. Tempo won't slip. You're going to smile." Jackie nodded. Tito said, "Got it." Michael didn't say anything. His throat was tight. Joe stared at Michael's face. "What's that?" he asked. Michael panicked. "Nothing," he said. Joe's eyes dropped briefly toward Michael's pocket. He didn't see the paper, but it felt like he sensed something. He didn't push it. He just said, short and sharp, "Look at me. When you step out there, all this ends. You understand?" Michael nodded. Joe leaned in, voice lower now. "You'll be fine, but I don't want mistakes." Then he walked away. Jermaine leaned close. "Mike," he whispered, "close your eyes and take one breath. Okay?" "Nep." Michael pressed his hand against his pocket, feeling the paper. "Okay," he said. They reached the stage entrance. On the other side of the door, sound stood like a wall, the audience's roar, clapping, shouting. It hit your chest like a wave. Michael's knees locked for the briefest moment. In that instant, the only thing in his mind was the belt. Then Rosie's sentence surfaced. "Close your eyes and think of me." Michael didn't fully close his eyes. Not here, not right now. But for 1 second, he repeated that line inside himself, and it was like a rope he could grab. He stepped forward. The curtain opened. The lights struck his face, and the moment Michael sang the first note, the kid in the hallway fell away. A different Michael took his place. He moved into the steps. His voice opened. His shoulders loosened. He found the rhythm. The louder the crowd got, the more he settled into his place. But by the third song, something happened. Michael went to hit a note, and his throat went dry. His breath got stuck in the wrong place. For a split second, panic flashed through his head. My voice is going to crack. And Joe's words echoed, I don't want mistakes. Michael's eyes widened. For half a heartbeat, it felt like the song might collapse. Jermaine saw it out of the corner of his eye. He leaned into his microphone and pushed his own voice a little louder, just enough to give Michael a tiny pocket of air. Michael used that pocket. He grabbed a breath. His heart was pounding. Without thinking, his hand slipped to his jacket pocket. He felt the paper. His fingers squeezed it hard. If you get too scared. He didn't close his eyes, but he repeated the line in his head. And the knot in his throat loosened. He hit the next note. It came out clean, strong. The crowd screamed louder, never knowing how close the moment had come to tipping over. When the song ended, Michael lowered the microphone and told himself, silently, Okay. Keep going. After the set, applause roared. Real applause, long applause. Michael bowed, smiled. From the outside, he looked like a happy kid. But behind that smile, he knew the truth. That smile was built on top of fear. Backstage again, Joe started firing instructions like always. In the second song, the tempo pushed forward, he said. Tito, tighten it there. Jackie, don't fall behind. Mike. Michael flinched. Joe looked at him. Good, he said, just once. You sang good. For Joe, that was a big sentence. Michael lowered his head. Thank you, he whispered. Joe turned away. The subject closed. But inside Michael, it didn't close. The belt was still on that chair. Michael tried not to look at it. He pulled the paper from his pocket and read it again. I won't forget to clap. He whispered to the paper, I don't even know you, but thank you. Jermaine noticed. What's that? He asked. Michael folded it fast. Nothing, he said. Jermaine held out a hand. You can show me, he said. Michael hesitated, then opened it. Jermaine read it. His eyes softened. Who gave you this? He asked. A girl, Michael said. Rosie. She was here. Her mom cleans. Jermaine handed it back. Keep it, he said. That's a good thing. Michael nodded. When the concert ended and the audience poured out, Backstage somehow felt even busier. People coiled cables, pushed cases, called out to each other. A door banged. Someone shouted, Truck's ready! Michael saw a small opening, one quiet moment. He walked down the corridor. He wanted to find Rosie. He didn't want to ask anyone. Joe would say, Don't wander. But something in Michael felt like it had to do this. Near a door, he spotted a corner with a mop and bucket. A woman stood there, tired face, hands that smelled like detergent, and beside her was Rosie. Rosie froze when she saw Michael. The woman stiffened immediately. Who are you? She snapped. You can't be back here. Rosie rushed in, panicked. Mom, he's the boy who sings. The woman blinked, surprised. You one of the Jackson kids? She asked. Michael nodded. I'm Michael, he said, lowering his voice. Rosie gave me a note. I wanted to say thank you. Rosie stared down. I didn't do anything, she said. You did, Michael said. I was scared. Rosie looked at her mom. Her mom softened a little. Rosie, the woman said, did you talk too much backstage? Rosie shook her head fast. No, I just told him to be okay. The woman looked at Michael. Listen, kid, she said. We work here. Don't make trouble. Michael nodded quickly. I won't. I wanted to give her this. He pulled out something small, nothing expensive, just a simple Backstage card from the show, like a little pass. Maybe it wasn't valuable in money, but to a child it was a memory. Take it, he said to Rosie, so you remember. Rosie's eyes widened. For real? She asked. Michael nodded. For real. Then he paused. Did you really clap? Rosie smiled this time. Yes, she said, but everyone clapped. Michael shook his head. No, he said. I thought about you clapping. Rosie glanced at her mom. Her mom's eyes looked glassy, but she tried not to show it. All right, the woman said. You should go now. Michael stepped back. "Okay," he said. Rosie blurted, "Are you here tomorrow too?" Michael was about to say, "I don't know," but he stopped. "We are," he said. "Maybe you can come again." Rosie nodded. "I will," she said, but her voice sounded more like "I want to" than a promise. Michael thought for a second, then pulled out Rosie's note. He flipped it over and scribbled something quick on the back. Not a big signature, not a showy autograph, just a kid's message. He handed it to her. Rosie read it. "If I get scared, I'll think of you." Rosie pressed the paper to her chest. Michael turned around. He didn't run, but he walked faster, because he didn't want to meet Joe's. "Where were you?" "Look." That night in the hotel room, Michael sat on the edge of the bed. He took Rosie's paper out again. It was more worn now, fingerprints, a bent corner. He folded it carefully and slid it into a notebook. Like if it disappeared, that night would disappear with it. The next day there would be rehearsal again, travel again, another stage. But now Michael carried two things in his pocket: fear and a small sentence written by another child. Years later, people would talk about Michael's power on stage, his voice, his dancing, the light around him. But maybe part of that power lived somewhere nobody ever saw. In a narrow backstage hallway, in a wrinkled piece of paper, a little girl handed him. And in the simple thought that kept him upright, somewhere out there, someone won't forget to clap.